not going to be caught or pulled into some BBC, fake news questioning.
Kind of language.
Like a happily broken record. Would you like to move on?
Now, one of the concerns outlined in the document, which you have raised several times, is about Europe and saying that Europe is facing a civilizational erasure. Can you just explain to the audience what you mean by that?
Well, very simply, when
Trump spokesman Sebastian Gorka always seems to get into these incredibly heated debates when he talks to the liberal British media. He clearly has no love for our mainstream media, which we know is biased. And we know the BBC has a left-wing liberal bias. Liberals are currently in meltdown because Trump has said Europe is in civilizational decline because of the extreme liberal policies of its elites. Of course, he's absolutely correct. Our own liberal elite is destroying us, and America sees that. The liberal left wants Trump to butt out of European and British affairs. Well, why should he? It's okay for Muslims to be obsessed with Palestine because they see them as their Muslim brothers. So why is it not okay for Americans to show concern for the country of their ancestors that they share history and language with, as well as also being their closest allies? We are enthusiastically importing violent third world men who come illegally, many of which hate us. Then we spend billions on them while putting them before the British people. We promote and celebrate their cultures while simultaneously suppressing our own as not to offend them. Our government, courts and police believe their job is to protect them from the white British majority. Islam is promoted while Christianity is often suppressed. Our government is against its own people. As Gorka said, we have had mass horrific exploitation of white girls by mostly Muslim men from Pakistan, and it was systematically covered up at every level to protect the multiculturalism and diversity agenda. And that's before we get started on our insane economic, energy and foreign policy decisions that are crippling us. How can any sane person say there is not an agenda that's destroying this country? It's suicidal empathy in the name of liberal globalism, and it seems as bad, if not worse, in France, Sweden and Germany. But let's be clear, America is not perfect. They have many of the same problems as us with mass immigration. But thank God America is calling out our elites because they absolutely hate hearing it. Here's the interview.
I'm not going to be caught or pulled into some BBC, fake news questioning. It's peace that is our priority.
I'm not sure asking whether Russia's a threat is fake news, because
I do not work for the BBC. If you look at what you did to the footage of the president's speech on January the 6th, I know what the BBC really is.
Okay, I'm well aware you don't work for us. In the 2017 document, the National Security Strategy, there was criticism of Russia in that document, saying that actually Russia's engaged in subversion and aggression. There's none of that kind of language.
Like a happily broken record. Would you like to move on?
So you don't want to answer that question?
Would you like to move on? You see,
I can't. If you don't want to answer it, I will move on. Now, one of the concerns outlined in the document, which you have raised several times, is about Europe and saying that Europe is facing a civilizational erasure. Can you just explain to the audience what you mean by that?
Well, very simply, when you have unfettered entry by millions of illegals from other parts of the world that don't necessarily share your Judeo-Christian heritage, when you see the rape gangs in the UK, for example, destroy the lives of thousands of young girls and then being protected by local law enforcement because they're afraid of being deemed racist if they investigate those things, then we are very perturbed by what we witness in Europe. So it is clear, if you just look at the birth rates, for example, the civilizational decline across Europe, that no one is even close to the 2.1 replacement rate. So whether it's a lack of sovereignty, whether it's turning a blind eye to the absolute carnage wrought by some communities on your nations and illegal immigration by the truckload, these aren't opinions of the president's administration. These are empirical facts. Europe is in civilizational decline. But the most important part of the document, or should be from your perspective, is we wish to see that reversal. But we cannot impose that on you from Washington, D.C. That has to be a decision of the people of Europe. And God bless everyone who voted for Brexit, who said, we wish to have the UK a sovereign nation again. So this isn't opinion, this is fact. Europe is in civilizational decline.
The document does talk about cultivating resistance
from the country you wish me to comment on as some kind of, overarching existential threat. Well, you will have a problem. Stop buying Russian energy and maybe you'll be a little bit more secure.
The document does talk about cultivating resistance to Europe's current trajectory within European nations. Does that mean funding certain political parties here? Is that one way of approaching it?
The US government? What lunacy are you quoting? What is that based upon? Funding parties? Where did you get that from?
No, I'm asking what it means by cultivating resistance.
Where did you get that from? You're not asking. You're actually positing. Where did you get that from?
I'm quoting the document.
Funding political parties? That's not in the document.
No, I'm asking that question. Cultivating resistance. What do you mean? Well, I'm asking what you mean by it. Is that what you mean by it?
No, you're asking whether that means funding parties. Where did you get that from?
I'm asking you a question.
You're making it up. I mean, again.
I'm not making it up. I'm asking a question. It's not a fact. I'm asking a question.
No. Does it mean funding parties is made from whole cloth? That is classic BBC hackery.
What does cultivating... Well, what's the answer to my question? What does cultivating resistance mean?
That's not the question you asked. You posited that we will fund political parties.
No, I asked you a question.
Why did you make that up?
Why won't you answer the question?
That's not the question you asked. Now you're
I said, what do you mean by cultivating resistance to Europe's current trajectory?
Doesn't mean funding political parties. Where did you get that from?
I'm asking whether that is one way of doing it. Is that what you're suggesting?
What editor told you to say that?
No editor told me to say that. Just, will you answer the question?
Because it's not in the document. It's not in the document, so where did you get it from?
What does cultivating resistance to Europeans' current trajectory mean?
Why won't you answer the question about your fake news accusations?
Because I've just asked you a question, you don't answer it. But if you're not going to answer it, then we will move on.
And then you change the question. You asked the question, does it mean funding political parties? I'd love to know why you asked that question.
Does it mean that?
Why can't you answer that question? Where you got that fake lie from? Where is that from?
I'm allowed to ask questions, and I was hoping you were going to answer it. I'm allowed to ask the question.
Then you changed it. Why are you changing the question?
I'm allowed to ask a question, but you don't want to answer the question of what cultivating resistance means.
You are committing fake news.
I'll bring in the panel.